As we are still in the midst of Ascension, the question always is, what's going on and what can we do? And not everything actually is up to us. And that's a really good thing. And so very often we have these incredible influxes of light, which, as you know, light is real particles. And our DNA is the receiver of that light. Our nervous system is the receiver of that light. And it is evolutionary light. It is not by chance. It is by design. We are part of this amazing cosmic experiment that is called creation. And I can only speak about this from the perspective of the mother. And I have great confidence in all that she shares with us, because it always makes so much optimistic sense. It's good to offer this big perspective at times, again and again, because it is easy to get lost in the little pieces. And it is really only when we see the big piece that we can understand what is going on. So I'd like to offer this perspective again. From the big perspective that Divine Mother has been delivering to us. And I always say since 2017, but that is not exactly the truth. Divine Mother has her team on this planet at the moment, and they are called the Rainbow Frequency. Sometimes we call them Rainbow Children, but it really is the fundamental, original essence, the love light of this cosmic mother. She intimately is all of nature, of course, but also she is the mystery. So she's not only the physical nature as we know her, she also is the beautiful, what we would call the spiritual mystery. And so there are two things happening at the same time. And I just feel so really, I would say, lucky that we know these things, because that can really help us to have these two pillars of knowledge. Divine Mother is one pillar of knowledge, but there's also what I would call the source, and people can call it whatever names. And these two perspectives are different, and yet, of course, they are all one. From the perspective of source, there is only one big reality, and that is one emanating light that spills into all of creation. And within the creation, really, you have all these hologramic dreams, and you can call them heaven, you can call them the 5D, you can call them whatever dimension. You know, when people go to what they call the new earth or the Pleiadian and all those worlds, it's infinite amount of worlds. And all these worlds are not real. None of them are real. And it's good to know, because they are all dream worlds, but they are necessary. Without these dream worlds, beings would have no experiences. And without experience, there would be no expansion. It would just be stillness, as you can imagine. It is only through experiences that beings that actually are within the cosmic body can themselves expand into more and more and more. The goal for all beings in all of creation, in the entire one big cosmos, is for the being to expand into more and more and more and more, and then to become just like the Creator itself. So in a way, everything is always infinite. It can never end. This is an adventure of creation and creativity, imagination and experience. So from the perspective of Source, nothing is real, and yet all exists. And when we dilute it to what is real, it would only be Source expanding itself through light and love into that which would be beings and worlds. And the beings are like stars that keep growing in their radiance. So it's very simple when Source looks at creation. So once again, it would be like that. The symbol that we use for the sun, tiny little circle with a big circle around it. And that is creation from the perspective of Source. It's very simple. But when we understand it, we understand the purpose for being, not only in this lifetime, not only in this dimension, but in any lifetime, in any dimension, in any body. No matter how advanced we become, we always are on the same evolutionary path of expansion. And what is expanding about us? Several things. Number one, though, it is our energetic heart. The more open we become, the more love we can receive and emanate to others. And that is our true purpose. I feel from speaking with Source, meeting with Source, having these encounters, that there is nothing more important in any world, which anyway would be just a hologram. No matter how pretty, no matter how wonderful, it always is a hologram. That's why people like Matthias de Stefano calls the universe mental. It's the mental universe. It's a mind. It is a mind that creates. But within the mind are very beautiful things, mainly very beautiful things. And the worlds, some of them are very beautiful, very harmonious, and some are becoming more harmonious. So this, I would say, is the greatest understanding that we can actually be guided by. And that is, it is all about expanding the energetic heart and becoming more and more and more liberated so that we can love more. And what is there to love? And that is the big question that I asked after all these different years of experiences. I asked Source and I asked Divine Mother, what is the most important thing? Just tell me, give me guidance. And I was told something very simple. Teach people, in this world. And that's not just for me. I think it's for all of us. How to love life. And again, not that life that is the small life, but the big life, the creation. When we understand how it works, we can love it. When we don't understand how it works, we are maybe confused by it. And we are in a world that's really confused, and yet there is so much beauty happening all around us and in us. It is a big moment of transformation. So if we just stick with the small and simple, then it is, how do we love life with a capital L? And if you have the 33 codes, it is Divine Mother who calls herself life. Life with a capital L, just so that we give it a name. And then the small lives, what we do here, the little things. But if we keep that big life in our hearts and minds, we'll always are on the right path. And that is the path of more love. And there is never really the final destination where we say, okay, I have become the most love I can be. Because Source actually is endless. It is an endless creation. It will always be happening. It will never stop. And it will always find a new way to express itself. And we will all be assisting with that by being more love. And this is where the memories of Mu are very important, because we remember that Mu was so perfect, but Mu kind of, was stagnant in the bliss. And yet we are to expand in our bliss. But Mu also had another great quality that we are rediscovering, and we will rediscover as human species. And that is that creation is rainbow. All is filled with rainbow light, and that's the beauty of creation. Creation is really in those mystical as well as physical terms. It's a kind of physics would explain it well. It is about light and the different spectrum of light. It is about tones and music. And in Mu, we had that kind of dilemma. We were looking for the most beautiful music, and not music that we could play, but music of the spheres, because Source already creates the most perfect music. And so the question was, what could be more perfect than perfection already? And that is creation. Creation is always looking for more perfection. And this is what we're doing on planet Earth right now. So this is the perspective of Source. So I said there would be 2 pillars of how to look at everything. And the second pillar is the point of view of Divine Mother. it is different, because Divine Mother also is something that Source kind of isn't, and yet it is silly to say that, because all actually is just one that we could call God, creation, divinity. There's only one cosmic body, there's only one creation, and yet we can find within creation different energies. So Divine Mother is a different energy. She is the way that I know her, she is so passionate about finding new ways to create. And so she creates this very intricate web of life. And her perspective is a little different. It's very engaged. It's, she's like there in the tree. She's there in the body. She's there in every human being. She's there in every rock. She's there in every animal. And so you would say she is this like ultimate presence of love in creation. And her passion is creating more and more and more and more. And so we see nature as one expression of our cosmic mother nature. And of course, that means all of the cosmos is her body. And those who have not seen her, right, cannot possibly imagine the vastness of her body. And yet the only way to see her is to become her. And that's why certain level of mystical death is actually required to be one with her. Until then, we can be, in her, and we can really feel her within us. But there is a mystical way to get to know her, and that is to become her. Now, she actually always moves through certain lineages, as strange as it may sound, and yet she would be in all. But there are certain lineages where the DNA is actually coded so that Divine Mother can be present in a certain world through that lineage. In our world, this is the lineage of Moon. In our world, it is the original lineage of the rainbow light. It is rainbow consciousness in a way. And so that's why you and me are here now, because this thing is in our DNA. And so when Divine Mother looked into this world, this is how I would describe it in 2017, because conditions were right. And she said, how do I anchor my presence in this world a little bit more fully once again? And so she just looks and she sees the frequency in the DNA. You can have also incredibly strange experiences that are multidimensional, where actually these beings from other dimensions will come and test your DNA. And this can be a real multidimensional experience that can happen. It does happen. And this is how we find each other when beings are looking for us. So they look at this world and they look at the code. They don't look for a face. And that's why I say, we cannot find the being in the face. We cannot find the being really in like the body. Oh, this is a woman, this is a man. No, it is the DNA. Who's got the light in that DNA? DNA is a physical and a non-physical code, just like Divine Mother is a physical and non-physical being, because she's all of it. So let's say you go to this beautiful non-physical world that people call heaven, and you can visit it, there are so many different dimensions, and you see all these beings that are just filled with light, and they are doing healing and singing and playing. And is that world real? It is not real. And yet it exists. Then you come here on planet Earth, little density by design, and everything seems so real. Is this world real? No, it is not real, but it exists. And so what is real then? That's when we go back to Source and we say, the real is the light that emanates from Source and spills into all beings, and these beings are dreaming. All beings are dreaming. There is not a single being who is not dreaming. And no matter how great, no matter how big, no matter where and when, everyone's just dreaming the world into being. And so that's how it is not real, and yet it exists. And so with all of that said, in this world, Divine Mother found her way by design to anchor herself in many of her rainbow lineage in 2017. And everyone who felt her got to see her, got to communicate with her, and is expanding to her, understands what is happening on planet Earth despite the very confusing situations. And I guess this is very interesting because we've been receiving, obviously, these solar impulses, galactic impulses, and they are very, very real. In a way, you can think about it this way, that since we are in a body of this cosmic mother, imagine your own body. Let's say that there are some cells in your body that need help. And the rest of the body will actually do something, right? We can call it healing, to assist the part that needs help. And that's why, for example, Patricia Cota-Robles says, the call for help has to come from the world where the help is needed, and then others will come to help. And so within this body, many of us have been calling for help. And that is because this world lost some kind of balance. And really what it lost a very long time ago is the balance between divine feminine and divine masculine, but also it lost the true nature of divine masculine. And so we've lived in a world that was actually not at all divine masculine, even though it was patriarchal. We lost the lineage of the mother, really, in our physical systems, in these systems that we have, and in the consciousness of human beings. And we also lost the true divine masculine, which is love. It all has to be love. And so there has been this big distortion about who actually rules this world. And now the mother is back. She found her way. She anchored herself in these rainbow beings, and she's expanding her presence every single day. And it is up to us, rainbow beings, this rainbow consciousness, as one unified field, which is who we are, to expand and emanate her presence into this world. The presence of the mother, it is very much Christ consciousness. And so it is all interconnected. There is no separation really between, the Christ consciousness, divine mother, divine father. We can all just call it love. And it really is. It is the absolute freedom also. And that's something very interesting that Divine Mother has been speaking about a lot. And that is, do we want to be free? And if we really put freedom as an important aspect of nature, then how do we call it in? Or are we willing as humanity to actually ignore this amazing opportunity to liberate our world? And this is something that is the most important, I guess, topic that she has been talking about. But I do have to say, the last few days have been days of integration after we've received all these incredible impulses of light, and we are integrating this new level into our DNA. What is happening is that basically our DNA is being awakened. The awakening is really not happening, what we call the awakening of consciousness. It's really awakening of our own body. It is the awakening of our DNA. And because when these solar energies come, even if we don't see them, I think that we all feel them. And it even doesn't matter whether we feel it or not. They go into everyone on this planet who has DNA, who's a biological being. And of course, nature goes into nature. So as we call for assistance, the response comes from the rest of the body. And people can call it, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Sirians. It doesn't even matter. The thing is that it's just one body responding to herself. So it's like Divine Mother healing her own body and kind of reactivating part of her body that was asleep. So she's waking up, and she's waking up the planet that we know as Earth, because that is also part of her body. It is the bigger part of the body. Every mystic who has been able to see the Earth has been able to say the Earth is not a planet. The Earth is a living, breathing being, and she can take on many different forms. I personally have met her And I always say, it's the same stories that I tell, but I find them helpful just so that we give hope to those who maybe have lost hope or don't, see what we see. And that is that Divine Mother, when she appears in the form of Gaia, she can talk to us, and she is the ultimate loving mother who says, wake up, my children, wake up. This dream is coming to an end in the most wonderful way. And it is because she is the one causing all this transformation. Now, in this world, we have a very confusing situation that people call a virus. And again, I don't want to spread any nonsense and I don't want to upset anyone, but I just want to offer a perspective that was offered to me. And so it's very personal, not the ultimate answer to all things. But I want to say that Yogananda came to me in 2019 before the situation started. And he said there will be this thing that will be purifying everyone's cells, preparing them for greater light, preparing them for greater activation of the DNA. And it will seem like a virus. So this is just, again, I share it because it's my personal experience. And so there's nothing really to worry about. It will just seem a little rough, but no. This is part of this cellular purification. Now, interestingly, the Hopi people who are part of my personal spiritual lineage, they have always spoken about the great purifier coming to the earth at the end times, the beginning times of the new earth. And they said something really interesting. There will be the great purifier moving across the earth. And when the great purifier is done with every particle of life on this planet, there will be the dance in the plaza, which is, the Hopi village. And the Kachinas will take off their masks. And now, this is a very old prophecy, and obviously they had the dance masks. But I find it very interesting how the world has been now wearing masks for almost 2 years. And if at the end times of this illusion that we have been in, we will be taking out the masks, maybe. I'm just interpreting it like myself. Nobody told me this. But so I just want to give a little bit of hope that all that is happening because the earth herself is changing. Our bodies are the ones who are changing the most. And this is something that maybe is the most misunderstood aspect of the current world situation. That all is a positive change right now. Also, what is really interesting is how Divine Mother showed me that she herself is going to peel off all the density from her own body. And when I saw it, it kind of felt like death. And I said, wow, is this good? Is this bad? And she said, oh, imagine losing your density and again going into the etheric expression of yourself. How beautiful and elevated that experience is. And so she said she will peel off density from this world, but she will also be peeling off density from our human bodies so that we become more and more rainbow-like, more and more etheric. And so again, this is the big change that is happening. It is unstoppable. I definitely have asked her, since I have seen these, things happening in the world that seem like we are not going in the right direction and there is freedom being taken away from so many people. And she assured me that since this light is coming and it is really hitting the earth, solar and galactic light, and the assistance we're getting from all parts of her own body, no one can stop this change. And so I hope that's a very positive message. And it's 22 of us here. And it's just very strange because before I started this transmission, Divine Mother said today's code is code 22. And she really wanted me to read code 22 from the 33 codes. So I hope it's okay with you guys. She said she will activate us through code 22 today. So every time before I do any transmission with her, I always ask her, what is it we can do for you? What is it that you want? And she said, please, today, code 22. So I will let her transmit this energy to us. and activate this great love that is happening in this world. And we have to know what is really happening is just great love. And it is happening in our cells, it is happening in our DNA, and it really doesn't matter so much, what we believe, it is happening anyway. Code 22. Your Mother Creator is a cosmic being of unimaginable proportions. All universes are held in the incomprehensible vastness of her one body. One source is exploring its own infinity in the mirror of one cosmos. The mystifying dance of the two creates all life. One source creates endless space into which the mother moves. She fills the void with the patterns of her imagination. She imagined you, and hence you came into being. The mother of all life bestowed an exquisite dispensation of creation energy onto all particles in existence. All drops in the limitless ocean of life vibrate with the same dynamic power. To know the unfathomable mechanism driving the perpetual expansion of the web of life is to recognize and obey the primordial flow. The omnipresent emanation of source energy follows intelligent laws of nature. Observe the all-penetrating laws of Mother Nature's arms and apply her mastery to your own being. Be like her and thrive. Let go of your sense of self-importance readily. There's nothing to be gained by resisting the unified field of life. When you emanate unshakable peace in the midst of everlasting acts of exploration, you demonstrate your absolute grasp of the workings in all things. Indifferent love is the key that opens the gateway to the undiluted fullness of your origins. From one love you came, to one love you shall return. That is the unchangeable law of nature.